The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
You ever see this guy with the pillows on Fox? My pillow guy, Mike Lindell. He is the greatest. The My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And he's been with us right from the beginning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Lindell Show. We have good news. We're going to have Shawn Smith back with us today, and we're going to get into the Tina Peters, whatever you'd want to call it, horrific thing that's happened to her, Gold Star mom being in prison for 9 years, and how it led up to that. When we left off yesterday, I believe we were talking more about the spring. We got Shawn's background, the spring of 21. So we're going to be digging into that. Before we get into that, though, I want to tell you, you see on the screen there, they put up mypillowtrial.com. It just got confirmed that the appeal got put in yesterday for myself. If you guys could help out at mypillowtrial.com, check it out. My Pillow was 100% vindicated, everybody. And you can check that out there and get the and donate whatever we need. We need help. We need to raise I think it was $400,000 over the next month. This first thing that was filled out by the lawyers that went to the judge. Now the judge has to decide, but we believe the judge. I won't say it, but we'll see what happens. The member of the jury trial ruled that I did nothing malicious. I believe what I said, still believe what I say. I'm not going to change what I believe. So there shouldn't be any damages whatsoever. It was mistakes that were made, I believe, by the judge and herself, but we'll see what happens. So if you could help out there, I want to give you a quick update, everybody, on Keith Ellison attacking me here in Minnesota. That's the Attorney General. He came after my C3s, C4s, or C3s, I guess. The LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. That's LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. If you guys have anybody in addiction, that's the place to go, and you could also help out there. The last thing I want to say for advertising, I'm saying here, if you go to mypillow.com, go there, use promo code L77, promo code L77. Everything you do right now to help myself and my employees, we've got through there. There it is right there. We got the summer sheet sale, $29.88, premium My Pillows on sale. The crosses I wear, they're just like the one I wear, you save 50%. The Next Generation Energy Drink. You guys can check all this out, or check this out, mypillow.com. And then also or you can call my reps. You can get the number right off the website there. But you're helping my employee-owned company as we continue to get attacked and pass savings on to you. One of the things you'll find there is all the slippers that we're closing out. We've had to consolidate, close down some of our lines. We just had a box store cancel just last week again. One of the few that stayed with us, they canceled out of the blue. They don't like me talking about electronic voting machines. And today, as you know, we're going to have a branded segment on my show every day now in this new hour that we're on here. It's called Melting Down the Machines. Voting machines. Someone says, "What kind of machines?" Voting machines, Jimmy Kimmel. And this is today. It's going to be pretty much the whole hour, and I'm going to bring on Shawn Smith. If you guys were here yesterday, Colonel Shawn Smith, he gave us his background yesterday, he's been leading. They get to right up to speed, everybody. He worked for our government. He did stuff to protect computers from attacks, cyber, all these different things for our military, for the big weapons they use. Well, as he got in just like me, all of a sudden you roll into the 2020 stolen election. You see all these different anomalies where I came from the part of, hey, it doesn't make sense that all these people voted in counties, every county in the country that didn't live in the counties, which is a crime. It didn't make sense to me, and it had to be computers. And what Shawn did is he came in from another direction, going, "Hey, I'm looking at these. I'm studying these voting machines that are used in our elections. This is right around the 2020 election." And goes, "Here's a guy that's the best there is at checking stuff for our things that are very important, like our weapons that we use in war and our military, the computers used there." And he's going, "We got big problems here." And so without that, I want to bring in Shawn. Shawn, are you there? Hey, Shawn, you're looking good today, just like yesterday.
Yeah. Without having to have to change your clothes that much. Same thing every day. If I had gray animals, I'd probably put them on.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. So you're
wearing uniforms every day. You just
right on.
This is my uniform now.
Right on. Well, I tell you what, I got it. For me, everybody, as long as we're talking about uniforms, for me, I was always afraid of people that wore ties, and I never eat with more than 2 forks, right? So I was, if you read my book, or I don't know where I got a copy here. In my book, there's a thing in there where I had to, anybody with ties, they intimidated me. And here, all of a sudden I'm thrown into this world of wearing suits when I doing the rallies and all these other stuff, and it was like I didn't even own a suit or tie, and now I got so many of them. I'm doing it, that's kind of not who I am. I'm the tieless person, but anyway, so it's kind of the opposite. I've had to. And believe me, everybody, I still don't eat with more than 2 forks. I always said with addiction, we talked about my addiction platform. Everybody, I say, addiction affects everyone. It doesn't matter how many forks you eat with. Well, that needs, like, I've been in the streets with no forks, and we've been up to where they got so many forks on the table that these rich people, you don't know what to do with all the forks. But anyway, Shawn, we left off. I gave a little bit yesterday. I want to get into now, you guys. We're going to talk specifically, as you and I both know, bring us back. So in November and December, when you realize there's vulnerabilities and with the machines, the voting machines, and obviously, and then I said you went and spoke at a. Why don't you just bring us back? Recap that right when you started seeing that there's the machines are vulnerable. You did I think you said a speech to Congress or something, and they didn't listen. I think that surprised you, and then all the deviations, coming out of the actual election. You had to combine the two and go, hey, this is horrific, right? I mean, this can't.
That's right. I didn't have any on election. I didn't have anything in mind. I wasn't looking at results. There were no results. I didn't even see early results. I don't pay any attention to that kind of stuff. I'm not a political person in that way. I just saw this article on voter turnout, and I thought, that doesn't sound right. I better go look. So I went and started looking at the voter registration data and the population data, doing my analysis, and then I really thought this doesn't look right. And then I found out there were voting system manuals and the test reports and plans, and I started looking at those. And it was like almost a week later, I think, I was on a call. I was volunteering with Convention of States at the time. And I was on just our weekly volunteer call, and we were waiting for everybody to join. I was talking to somebody else on the call about what I had seen, what I had learned at that point, which was a lot. I had by that point probably done 15 to 20 hour days of reading, which, I just, once I'm interested, I just sink my teeth into it and don't let go. And and I was talking to these other volunteers, and they said, "Oh my God, would you talk to our Colorado state legislator about that?" And I said, "Sure." And it happened to be Ron Hanks. And I knew nothing about what they were doing. I had met Ron Hanks, but I didn't really know him. I had met Dave Williams and talked to him about Convention of States. I didn't really know him that well, but they were both going to be in this legislative audit committee hearing, or we're trying to get witnesses to it. And so I ended up on the phone with them and explained for a couple hours what I had found. And they said, "Will you please come testify?" And I said, "Okay, I guess." I used to testify all the time, with House and Senate Armed Service Committee staff and things like that. It didn't faze me at all. But I assumed, like we talked about, that I'd go up there and then the legislators would hear what I was saying and they'd say, "Oh my God, that's terrible. We should do something about that." Yeah. But instead, it was a month later. We went up there for the legislative audit committee hearing, and I swear this is what happened. It was very hard split on party lines. The Republicans were asking questions, and the Democrats on the committee, which is a bipartisan committee in the state legislature, they did not want the meeting to happen. They complained about how long the meeting took and how they hadn't had lunch yet. They were literally, some of them were dialed in remotely. I stood outside in the hallway for 9 hours. But
do you think, Shawn, that they, at that point, from the time you had talked to them and going, wow, whatever, and do you think that there was a complete flip flop, like they either didn't care, didn't want to look, or didn't believe? Was it, or didn't,
It was very clear that it was a verboten topic. They were not going to. The Republicans were surprised for the most part, I think. There was a guy who had some computer software experience, and he asked some good questions. But the Democrats on the committee, and I was nonpartisan at that point. I wasn't registered. But the Democrats on the committee just continually tried to shut everything down. So Jenna Ellis had testified in that hearing. A couple of former secretaries of state of Colorado had testified in that hearing. Jenna Ellis basically said, "Yeah, there's a lot of irregularities. You got to look into them." And the former secretaries of state and all the other people who testified, other than citizens, were all, rah rah. Everything's great. It's perfect. Our standard. It's a gold standard. Don't need to look at anything. It's so perfect. If it's so perfect, if Jesus came back down, he would want to know how they did it so he could model his own life after it. That's how perfect our election is.
That's how perfect they said it was. And this, and I want to tell everyone
ever, and then,
and I want to tell everyone,
I was one of the last people to speak, And I just went through a list. Like, these are things I know are true. Like, I've looked at the configuration of this. I've looked at the testing standards. I looked at the companies involved. This is not right. These things are not secure. It cannot possibly. And I hadn't even done all the research into manufacturing yet. That
Right.
all came later when we did the cases in Arizona and Alabama, where I did
Right.
that background on the voting systems.
Right.
And with what I saw in Department of Defense, I can look at these systems and tell you this system is probably compromised by a supply chain compromised by the Chinese because they're manufacturing these components.
In China. Right.
And
And you guys, and really, right. And I want to tell everybody, you guys, now remember, this is Colorado, what Shawn's talking about. And on a parallel track, Shawn and I didn't know each other. On a parallel track, he mentioned something like Jenna Ellis there. I ended up meeting Jenna Ellis down the road. And there's another perfect example of a person that's seen with their own eyes the corruption. She was embedded in it and seen the corruption, the vulnerability, everything. What did she do? And then I will say this. I even went to her once. I believe it was the fall of 21. Said, "Hey, I need you to not back off like everyone else and be brave, be courageous. We got to save our country." And I said, "I'll cover your attorneys if you just stay brave." She was worried about lawfare. Well, she did. She stayed brave for about, I don't know, a week, and then just went in like all the other cowards, afraid, and she just completely went flip flop. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Which a lot of people that's what lawfare did. Everybody, but it happened to, they just attacked them, but back then, for everybody's timeline. So here's like you got your Shawns. Everybody's seen like Rudy Giuliani and Jenna going out there, the different places or whatever, but you didn't see the news outlets following them. And I don't know about other states other than maybe Arizona, where you had people like yourself, Shawn, and myself, where people are trying to, at that time, starting to sound the alarm, because we have seen, once you've seen and know something like that, you're never going to stop. If you're that kind of person, I don't understand a kind of person. I don't care how much money you're afraid of losing. Like your Jenna Ellis, she's a perfect example. She knew, she was embedded in it and knows we got to get rid of these voting machines, that they got to go, but yet she completely collapsed with the lawfare. And I'm not just singling her out. I'm just telling you guys an example. These guys, this was so well orchestrated that, for me, one of the biggest surprises too, Shawn, is how deep does this go? I mean, you're talking Colorado, and they're saying it's the best there. As we find out, everybody, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, when I had the Cyber Symposium, it planted seeds all over this country. I can sit here now and go, hey, and they'll tell me, I was at the Cyber Symposium. People can call it whatever you want. And when we came out of the Cyber Symposium, I'm going, the media wouldn't even say a thing about it. It was just silence. And but then all of a sudden, it planted seeds everywhere. And those people never backed down. They went back to their states. Your Maryland Todds of the world, your Jessicas of South Dakota, all these different places where they just dug in and said, hey, you guys, there's problems. I have been to I've seen it. And people don't realize that, but I want to get to you personally.
I understand it. I understand it to some extent. You know what I mean? There's the fear and how people.
It's fear. It's fear. They've never. Right. Yeah, there's a fear, and I'm not blaming. Yeah, this is what we were up against. Is the fear.
I do. If you're a fireman. So I get it for a regular citizen, but if you're a fireman and the bell rings, you have to go.
Right.
You have to go. Because that's what
and this is where we're at.
And the community counts on you.
Right. And this is where I'm at, where you go back to then and you say, we talk about, I even talk about judges and stuff. All the judges aren't corrupt. They have a fear. I lived through days, if anyone's read my book of the Mafia, hey, you're living with a pretty nice family. We know you don't care, but you're living with a pretty nice family. How's your family doing? This stuff is real, everybody. This stuff, there is fear. I can specifically say, like in Arizona, so many things went on in Arizona where it's like one day this politician's like this, and then something happened overnight. I was on a call, and I'm jumping ahead. I was on a call with Kurt Olson, and everybody, he's an attorney that worked side by side with me all these years. And I was on a call with him, and these were clerks down there that were going to be brave and not decertify. And I forget the 2 counties. There was 2 or 3 counties, and they weren't going to certify. And this was on a Thursday or Friday, everybody. We had them on the phone, and they're going, "Hey, we've just been threatened that we're going to go to jail if we unless we certify." And I go, and Kurt Olson says, and that one of them was almost crying, going, "Hey, I don't know what to do," and whatever. And Kurt says, "Well, you've done nothing wrong. You'll be doing nothing wrong. You'll be doing your job. So you won't be going to jail." And I go, "Kurt, this is what I said. You can't guarantee her that, because we were in an anomaly in history of evil, and we still are, evil versus good, beyond anything anyone's ever seen in this world history." And I said to them, "Kurt, you can't guarantee him that." But I said to them on the phone, I said, "What I will guarantee you is," I said, "if they arrest you," I said, "I'm going to be by you. I'm going to get you everything I can to get you out and back you." And that was that. Now, did they hold their ground? I believe they did not. They out of fear, they could have had how many more calls over the weekend? Not just threatening jail. I'm just saying. I know back in January and February of December and January of 21, January of 21. Over 150 people, everybody, across the country got letters from Dominion, specifically from Claire Clark or Claire Locke or whatever her name is, their attorneys, threatening them. And how did they threaten them? It's a beautiful letter. It says, "We know you have been saying that you have seen something in the election. We will be prosecuting people or bringing people to court, and you might be targeted. So we want you to hold all your records, all your phone records, everything." Now, if you're not like me, where I've been through more stuff than probably the average person, it's gonna scare you and go, "Oh my God." Some of them bought security systems. And these letters were almost right out of a mafia playbook, that I've gotten a bunch of times back when I wouldn't pay sports bets and owe the mafia money for football bets. These were so.
Well, and the lawfare and the leftist groups and NGOs also publish the names, right? And it's
Right.
It's not just those
Right.
lawfare organizations and NGOs. You
Right.
talked about our canvassing yesterday in Colorado. There were
Yeah. I want to get
5 other states that did canvassing, but even the Department of Justice got in on threatening the canvassers.
right. And you guys, we talked about this yesterday. This was really important, because when you canvass, you actually go right to the people's door. I mean, let me tell everyone that I want to tell everyone about camera angles here just for a second. Well, first I'm going to tell everybody this, and I've told this before, Shawn, because I want to get it where our paths collide. But you guys, when it got to January, and I've said this before, everybody, by the time we rolled into, and I sent planes overseas to Serbia, Italy. I mean, I paid for millions of dollars worth of stuff. Anything that had, "Here, you need money for this." And this was in November and December, just throwing money out there, whatever stick. "You need money for this?" Yes, because I knew there was something so wrong, that these deviations, they were mathematical impossibilities. Impossibilities. And anyway, by the time we rolled into, it was January, I believe it was a rally in Georgia. I think it was January 4th, everybody. And the rally down there for the 2 senator runoffs. And everybody, that's when you had your Linwood out there, and you had your Sidney Powell's of the world. Everybody's saying, everyone's saying they're gonna steal the both senators, just like they did. It's Georgia, and they're pinpoint, and we all knew that, and the whole country knew that. Even with them suppressing all the things, everybody had a fear of that. And I sat there in Georgia, Shawn. I think I've told you this story. There was 80,000 or 70,000 people at that rally. And I was right up front there with the president, and all of a sudden it hit me, and I started praying. I said, "God, please have them steal both the senators." Now, why would I do that? You know, here's why I did it, everybody, because I knew I'm a marketer. They had already been caught. They had already been caught. They had done everything they did, the cover-ups, all this stuff. In November, December, they couldn't keep the lid on it. It was such crazy deviations, mathematical impossibilities that they were caught. And the machines, if they lose their voting machines, it's over. If they lose them, it's over their little plan. So, if I was their marketer, here's what I would have said: hey, they're onto us. Let's give them back. Let's give these Republicans back a senator so they shut up about this election. And we will. We already have 3 corrupt senators anyway. We don't even need that to steal the Senate too. And everybody would, if that would have happened, you guys, if they'd have listened, nobody would have listened, Shawn, to all of us over the last 4 years. They would have, or the last 3 years, they would have said, we still have the Senate. We'll get them back in 2022. Just shut up about that. Come on, you guys. And it was bad enough, everybody, that we get it. Huh?
Vote harder.
Right.
Everybody vote harder. You're not voting hard enough.
Yeah, you're not right. But that's what they would have said. Hey, if they would have got 1 senator back, that's what everyone would have said. We'll just campaign hard. Nobody campaigned harder than Donald Trump in the history of the world. And so anyway, but they were greedy, everybody. They were greedy. They stole them both. My prayers were answered. And then what did they do? They said, everyone's going, whoa, maybe they did steal the election. What are we going to do now? It's over. It's over. Well, then the evil had a backup plan. And what was that? That was January 6th, the big setup of January 6th. And because that was going, their marketers go, don't worry, we'll take them both. And on January 6th, we have all this going on. And then which rolled into January 7th and 8th, everybody, when 1.2 million Americans were deplatformed of Vimeo, YouTube, Suckerbucks, Facebook, Jack Dorsey's crooked Twitter, and all of them. If you had spoke out about that election, you were just canceled. Parler was wiped off the face of the planet, and we were left with with no voice. And if you and everyone else was afraid to even speak up. So now you go into this. This is about the time, Shawn, that I came into the picture. And this is what I'm going to tell everybody about having 3 cameras on a diamond heist, so to speak, or maybe even 4. This is what didn't get to be brought up in my trial I was just at in Colorado. And on January 9th, I was getting a phone call by a guy that worked for the CIA. This guy was named Dennis Montgomery. I got that on January 9th, and I'm going, hey, at least it answered. It's so believable because that it would be a device that could do it for all these counties that I had checked into. It was an explanation. It had to be done. The one thing that confirmed it had to be done with computers. And then everybody, what I couldn't say in the trial is Dennis, when we got this guy on the phone, we checked his background. Yeah, he worked for the CIA Hammer scorecard. He goes, at that time, my Twitter was canceled, my personal Twitter. And he goes, here, you want me to give any examples? He broke into Twitter and turned my Twitter back on. Me in front of me and my wife, I'm going, what? He goes, watch this. He turns on my sprinkler system. These were things that, just to show credibility. How much is in your bank account? Things like this, okay? And at that time, then I'm going, okay, but there was one problem. I had to get this to the government because he had a government gag order on it. Now, everybody, that's just for that piece, I just want to say that's one camera angle, and that's the only one they focused on, Shawn, in Colorado when I was there. Oh, you're Dennis Montgomery, trying to debunk Dennis Montgomery's evidence. All of it's never even ever went out there, everybody. So anyway, then you have another camera angle, which is when I went around the country and got everybody's voter rolls, okay? When you get their voter rolls and you have these things that come out of there where you have 4,662 people in Alabama that voted that were over 110 years old. This is what the machines are telling you happened. I didn't make this up. This isn't Dennis Montgomery stuff. This is what the states charged me. Alabama charged me $40,000. We brought this up in trial, everybody. And Alex Halderman, another, call him what you want. Gee, I could defame myself there, a liar. can call him a liar, the biggest liar, compromised person this country's ever seen. Alex Halderman says, I said, well, what do you explain there? He goes, so what? That's what he said. So what? He said, so what? I said, so what? Wouldn't you want to find out, like that Secretary of State in Alabama, John Merrill, who just laughed and said we live pretty good here in Alabama? Alex Halderman said on that stand, so what? Well, people don't vote that are dead. 4,662 people over the age of 110 years old that voted in Alabama, that the machine said voted. Wrap your head around that, everybody. It's just like when Elon Musk found all these things on our Social Security thing where people are 200 years old getting Social Security checks. It's not so hard to wrap your head around. So that's another camera angle. Well, then there's the cast vote records, which is another thing you can get. The algorithms in the machines, the order the votes come in. That's another camera angle. We got 1/3 of all the camera angles in the United States in 2020 election. Every single one of them was computer manipulated. We get to the midterms, the 2022 election, and we only got, because then they're going, you can't have the cast vote records, which we should get under the Freedom of Information Act. And we only got 1/4 of the United States, but we found a lot of them, and especially in Florida, that weren't computer manipulated. So in other words, okay, so I don't care if you believe in Dennis Montgomery's evidence, here's that angle. Here's the cast vote records. Here's the data files. And then there's a third angle. And this is what Shawn's telling you about here. It's called canvassing. You can't argue with canvassing. Here's what it is, everybody. You go, and by the way, you can't use paper. Tell me if I'm saying this wrong, Shawn. You can't use paper ballots if it's counted only by a machine. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you only get to look at what the machine says.
You got to go back and look at the paper ballot. The paper ballot may not be legitimate, but the count cannot be counted on. You can't trust the count unless you hand count it. That's the truth.
That's exactly right, everybody. So if you have a tabulator machine counted, that's a machine. Okay. So anyway, with canvassing, when I started hearing about canvassing, was actually you guys in Colorado. But also, you guys, there was canvassing done all over the country. For example, in Florida, it was called Defend Florida, I believe. It's Defend Florida. I think that's what it was. And those guys canvassed like mega counties. And what we found was when you have the data files, it's usually 6 people or more in a house, you could almost bet on it. You're going to go there. You physically go there and say, wow, this is a 1-bedroom house. Did you vote? No, I didn't vote. Do these 5 people live here? No, they don't live here. Then you dig into those 6 people and you find out 3 of them might be deceased. 3 of them are from Wisconsin and you're canvassing in Florida. This is crazy, but that's another camera angle. And then you could extrapolate those numbers like we did in Florida. And all these camera angles, just in Florida alone, came within 20,000 votes that were stolen from Donald Trump, which, by the way, Florida was the 3rd highest in the nation in the 2020 election. Why would you steal from Florida? He won that. Because you got to smooth it all out. So there's not these big deviations. You smooth it all out like skimming a computer. But, Shawn, I want to go, it's got a little tangent there. I always do, but because it's like, the biggest thing is that was against us back then. You had all these deviation anomalies. At any other time in history, with what your knowledge and what you were doing, you would be on Fox News and the Daily Mail. You'd have been out there, the number one every day from morning till night. In another time in history, going, hey, I did this for the government, for our military and our weapons. We got a big problem here. Don't you guys want to see it? You'd be on there. You would have been so worn out just doing that because it would have been over. Like me, when I got that evidence from Montgomery, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. I sure as heck, you better look into it. You better look into it. Instead of what they did is just the cover up of the biggest crime in history, the biggest cover up of the biggest crime in history. And I've told you all out there, we have broke through the biggest cover-up in history. To get to the finish, we have to get rid of these machines before these midterms and the primaries, because that's where they steal it. If they steal it, it's over. It's all going to be in vain. Shawn, so you were living in Colorado at that time, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. How did you connect? Tell us how it connected, or where the Tina Peters um, connect with the Tina Peters, or how did you end up connecting with that? I know I didn't meet her till the Cyber Symposium. So can you tell us
So
that part so people understand?
yeah, so I told you I had been volunteering up to that point with Convention of States. There was somebody who I had worked with in Convention of States, and I did no research whatsoever prior to Election Day. Election Day is when my curiosity got piqued, and then the more I saw, the more worried I was about what I was seeing. And then, like you've described, you did. It's amazing that you did it because you weren't under oath. Jenna Ellis and I were both under oath. I'm under oath to defend the Constitution. So, and that's for life. I'm on individual ready reserve, so I'm technically retired, but I'm still under oath. So when I see these things going on, I've got to keep digging. Now, I still at the beginning thought, well, certainly the people in government can do something about this. It's their job and their sworn duty. But anyway, so there was a guy that I had worked with in Convention of States, and I saw his name in an article about 10 years before that he had co-written with another gentleman in Colorado, where they were talking about a number of election issues that I had seen these problems with. And so I called him and said, hey, can I talk to this guy? So he gave me the contact. I reached out. His name's Harvey Branscombe. He's a lifelong Democrat. We disagree about everything except election integrity, I think. But he and I ended up being a panel together when I spoke to the state legislative audit committee in the General Assembly. So he and I, a Democrat, and me at the time was unaffiliated, spoke together as election deniers about these issues. Then, because they made me stand in the hallway because I wouldn't wear the COVID mask in the chambers, even though we were 6 feet apart, I met Ash Epp. And Ash Epp said she was part of this group, and I still didn't think at that time I was going to have to keep doing this. I thought, well, I saw this stuff. I told them, I'm pretty much done. But then some other people that I'd met asked me to talk to them in El Paso County, Colorado, about what I thought. Because at that point in January, early February, you could see outcome, and some more of the information had come out about these anomalies and legal violations. And when I started putting together kind of a conceptual plan or conceptual explanation of what could have been done, then they wanted me to talk more about it. And then they connected me to somebody else who turned out to be with USEIP with Ash. So by the end of February, early March, I started talking.
Okay, I want to backtrack, Shawn. I want to backtrack a little bit. I want to backtrack, Shawn. I want to backtrack a little bit. In January, when I
plan, or but I don't remember it.
Yeah. Okay. And then carry on. In February, then you had met Ash, and you had met these people, and you started that. Is that when you started the canvassing people, the company?
No, not right away. What happened is I joined them, and then we started talking about strategy for what this group of volunteers in Colorado, USEIP, what we wanted to do. And it started off, we were bringing information to county clerks and trying to engage with the Secretary of State's office. We started off trying to talk to the public officials and saying, look, this is not right. These things are questionable. This is really vulnerable. This hasn't been addressed. That certification isn't correct. And what we got was just stonewalled everywhere. So then we sorted, and they've been doing rallies. I wasn't part of that. We were talking to officials. I drove around the state. I would go with anybody who wanted to go meet their public officials and explain what I understood from looking at the technical document.
Did it matter if they were Republican? Did it matter if they were Republican or Democrat? It didn't matter, did it?
No.
Didn't that surprise you? Didn't that surprise you that they either didn't care or they didn't believe you?
I wasn't politically affiliated at that time, and so I hadn't yet formed an opinion about who was behind what I've now concluded was, massive corruption and deep. I thought at that point, look, these could still be vulnerabilities, but as we started to see more anomalies in terms of the data and results, I thought, no, this looks like it's been, like if you see, it's like when you saw the ship deviated in the Baltimore harbor into the bridge. That was not a natural deviation, right? That was absolutely ship's control system was hacked.
Right.
And so if there wasn't somebody on board that ship in the bridge, in the control room, then that ship's control system was hacked. Because the way it turned and put itself right on track to hit the pylon, you know? And so when you see those when you see that response in large systems and repeated in different places, like all the places they stopped counting at the same time, and then all of a sudden the results are different in the morning. And then when citizens start trying to ask about, well, let us see the data from the machines, let us see who had access. And all of a sudden people are being arrested and sued and slandered, and the data is disappearing, right? There's a term now for you're an election denier if you question the election results or process, right? It was very clearly, and then when I saw what happened on day 6 and how the government behaved, I laugh at my own naivety. I went there, and my concern about going there was that there would be leftist violence like there had been in Portland where they shot and killed somebody, in Denver where they shot and killed somebody. So I wore a Kevlar vest with makeshift ceramic plates in it because I thought we might get shot or stabbed.
Wow.
And I've been shot before. I didn't want to get shot again. So, but I wasn't thinking about the government. I wasn't thinking about the government acting against the people. But when I saw how everybody behaved, I thought, this is a setup. And I didn't realize it or think about it until I got there. But then I started to look more critically at the way the government and institutions were reacting in concert. And it was very clearly premeditated. It was very clearly a conspiracy. And it was a conspiracy to obstruct the American people from getting transparency into what actually happened in the election. And that makes it a criminal conspiracy. It's RICO, right? When you see that, well, they're not going all that work to cover nothing, right? So, we had tried to talk to officials, and we're just, blank stares, denial, maybe some nods until you left the room, and then nothing. And so we decided, okay, well, let's go find out for ourselves what's about this voter registration data. And so we had gotten the data. You have to pay for, just like in Alabama, you have to pay for the data in Colorado, although it's not as much. And so we bought the subscription. We just paid out of our own pocket, bought the subscription, explained to the volunteers, this is, what we think we should do, designed the canvassing program. They tailored it for their counties. It was all designed. So this was unlike targeting or looking at houses where you found like multiple voters or suspicious things. What we did was randomly sample so that we could make conclusions about the whole county and then about the whole state based on that sample. And this is part of the reason when the lawfare organizations, NAACP and League of Women Voters, Mi Familia Vota, backed by Free Speech for People, when they came after us and accused us of violating the Voting Rights and KKK Act, asserted that we were racist, targeting, minorities and trying to intimidate them. We had all of the data that showed what we had done. We didn't even know who was a minority because it's not in the Secretary of State's data. We had no idea. And we could show how we did everything, why we did it that way, and that all their claims were false. Like they accused of us intimidating somebody in a county we never even canvassed. We were never there. And they,
well, it was they wanted to shut them up, everybody, but everything. On a note there, little advertising. They did get sued and to shut them up, but they won. You guys won, and that was probably, if you look back, I'm going to tell everybody, if you look back as we get to this great place we're going to get to, if you look back and you pull one card out, let's say you pulled out what you just did there by winning that canvassing thing in Colorado, everything will set a precedent, everybody. Everything will set a precedent, and then we wouldn't have been able to canvass in this country. So one of the things, you got to look at different things, but I'll tell you, if you would have lost that, Shawn, it was the whole country should. It's amazing you won. That was huge. It's kind of like everybody, was that a big thing where My Pillow winning their lawsuit with lawfare? Absolutely, because think of this. What they would do now going forward, they say, hey, if you're a business and you advertise on a show and there's so the other ones had settled. Do you hear that, everybody?
And that's why they got crushed in court, because there was no evidence for their false accusations. Not a single shred.
And that's what they do, everybody. This is
right now.
This is what
We're fighting
happened to
that
everybody
appeal
in
right now.
Colorado. Oh, they're appealing it.
And
Wow,
also the
this is
judge
how
denied
badly.
us get our legal, and we're fighting that too.
You guys, this
I
is
just
what
sold
the
the
evil
house
wants
so
to
we
win.
can
This
pay
is
those legal fees.
right. Well, I want to tell you, everybody, this is what you all have helped support too. With the cause of America, everybody, and I can't tell you much if you're watching. Go to myprivilege.com or trial.com. You can donate there. You guys, we need your help. This is it. We are the hub of the wheel of the whole thing. Everything that goes on with elections, the people that the people like Shawn, and all these people you hear about for Cause of America, and all these people that were seeds were planted out there, these leaders of leaders in all of these states. These are the things we've been financing so that we can secure elections, get rid of these voting machines. But you got different fights going on. You have lawfare. You're fighting the media. We're fighting everything. And by the way, that everybody, LindellTV is publicly traded. Get involved. Stock symbol MLMC. Shawn, I want to say to you then. So, as you're doing this on a parallel track, when did you first hear about Tina Peters then? And did that validate in any way that, hey, there's major problems with when you heard of the trusted build? I would like you to take it because I want to do it. I promised people to hear about Tina. Could you just tell us the Tina Peters story and a little bit from your eyes that you heard about it and why Tina Peters, and just tell us that real quick if you can.
It was normal for me to talk to county clerks. I had already talked to a bunch, trying to get them to do the right thing, trying to understand the situation, the vulnerabilities, trying to preserve their records because I knew already from the manuals what a trusted build was. And I realized how they conducted it, that it would destroy election records. The system itself was already configured to destroy log files. And then this was on top of that. I had been introduced to Sharona, and Sharona was trying to talk to her clerk there in Mesa County and get them to preserve the record, somebody she knew. And so I ended up on a phone call with Sharona and Clerk Peters, and they said, okay, what do you have to do here? And I explained, you have to really image it because there's a lot of stuff that's not being captured in the files. And then they had me talk to the guy who eventually did the images. I didn't know his name, but they wanted me to tell him, does this guy know what he's talking about? So I asked him some, tech geek questions to see how he responded. And I said, well, he sounds autistic enough. He could be a real guy. But I didn't, I didn't have the details on it. But Clerk Peters was concerned about the change they were going to make, which would eliminate the system's ability to read barcodes, because then she wouldn't be able to go back and rescan or look at her past ballots with the machines to see if the results that she had been told about were correct. So that was her original concern. And then we were talking about the destruction of election records that they were going to undertake. So that was how I first got introduced to her. And then, then when they had their county commissioners meeting and tried to convince them, then I talked to them too. And that was futile. They were useless.
Right. And here, just to tell everybody, to explain, in Colorado, what they did is they went through, and it's called a trusted build. Shawn, being a machine expert, computer expert, knew what they were going to do and what they were doing. They were deleting the 2020 election. For me, remember, I was already sued by Dominion for like 1.3 billion. When you destroy evidence in a case, in lawfare or a lawsuit, it's called spoliation. You just destroyed my evidence that I would have had. You destroyed it. I win. But that ain't the way it works in this day and age we're in, everybody. So with the trusted build, remember, Tina Peters, everybody, is a Gold Star mom. I don't even know if she was political in any way. She was approached because the Mesa County election, not the presidential one, the citizens questioned that because it was impossible what happened in that election. It was impossible that the people that live in there, I think all the Democrats won or something, but it was an impossible. So they came to her and she's going, I did. Right. I did a good job. She's going, what do you mean? Like every other clerk.
They had all these leftists elected in one election, and it just looked wrong to the citizens.
It just looked very wrong. But everybody, Tina Peters was like every other clerk we go to in this country. When you go to them for the first time, they go, I'm a good clerk. I do everything good. What do you mean? I run it like a top-notch, the best. Well, you can't run it because you can't see. I can put my bank account or my credit card out here and say, you know what, I'm going to run my credit. You have no idea what's on the back side. You don't know what's in that machine. You don't know who's changing stuff or doing stuff. So this is how it all came out. When Tina Peters backed up that thing like a lot of other clerks should have done and did, because the state of Colorado, crooked Jenna Griswold and Dominion, they go to delete this to wipe out what they had done just in Colorado. Remember, this is across the nation, but Colorado, they were taking one step further to do that to just completely delete it. Then I believe they went to Wisconsin, tried to delete it there, calling this trusted build. Well, anyway, then with Tina, everybody, if you fast forward, then we get to the cyber symposium, and that's where I first met her, and she was a hero. She did her job that she was supposed to do. You back up your computer. If someone's coming in to do work on my computer and they're going to rip into it, I'm going to do a backup, even if it's my personal computer. I have hundreds of computers here at my pillow. If someone was doing work on a computer and they didn't back it up, they're going to be in big trouble. You better have that backup. I don't care where you're getting your orders from. And she was the highest person in charge, everybody. So here we have, how many years later now, it's Tina ran for Secretary of State, you guys, and all of these things. And she has been attacked. When we did the cyber symposium, which planted seeds across our country, where people like, it was basically then all the people that came there, these were the leaders, where maybe you only had a handful of us, like Shawn, let's say there was 20, 30 of us, whatever, across. Now all of a sudden you had more people going, wow, look at this. Look what, there was problems. These deviations became real because everything had been suppressed and attacked through the media and through, against all odds. That symposium will go down, very important part of history, where everybody then, no matter what was presented there, you fanned out. Now, everybody with the Tina Peters, you all know the story, it goes into a year, then 2 years, they take her to court, and they try her, and they find her, and this crooked judge finds her guilty and literally scolds her and says, you keep doing what you're doing. You're a danger to society. She's a grandma, I don't know, 69, 70 years old, Gold Star mom, never had a jaywalking ticket in her life. And the judge gives her 9 years, can't get out for appeal. I mean, it's just so bizarre. And what was that done for? This goes back to the FBI taking my phone at Hardee's. They just went acting ticket in her life. And the judge gives her 9 years, can't get out for appeal. I mean, it's just so bizarre. And what was that done for? This goes back to the FBI taking my phone at Hardee's. Right.
They can't get to those servers, and that's why I do it. But they took my data and the Google.
And we'll see. As a federal and put in the witness protection program, people say, well, why would she need to be? If I was her, I would want to be in there because she holds keys to all the criminals that did stuff against not just her, but across our country. They did it to all of us. And she's just the example. You better not speak out or you could end up like Tina Peters if you're a clerk. And it's disgusting. And but here's why Tina, everybody, one of the biggest heroes that ever lived, because just like Shawn, myself, and others, once you know what we know and see what we see, there's no other explanation, Shawn, is there, other than...
They're fraud books.